year, let's just JT Brubaker or Mitch Keller, Cole Tucker, they get paid. It's like $40,000 actually for 2019, it's $45,300. So that's the rate they're going to make while in the minors. And then, of course, if they get called up, as you said, they're not making that rate anymore. For as many days as they're in the majors, they're making $555,000, the league minimum in 2019. So at the beginning of the year, what you're often seeing is a 25-man number. Okay. Now, of course, whenever you're looking, I mean, let me see here real quick. For literally what you're talking as far as 26 to 40 is not even $1 million. So like I said, it's a small thing, yes, but for the sake of accuracy. And now the big difference is, and as you mentioned, whenever things change constantly throughout the year. For example, and I'll always bring this up, in 2017, where everyone was talking about, well, you know, that's kind of when the Pirates started to see their downturn. The Pirates were going to open all plans and indications of opening up on over $100 million in payroll, but Jared Hughes was horrible in spring training, and they let him go. He was making over $2 million, and then his termination pay was much less than that. And then Jung Ho Kang got released, or not released. I'm sorry, he was on the restricted list, so his salary was knocked out. So you went from 103.5 to 98.5, and everyone's saying, oh, well, they didn't open up over 100. Well, technically, no, they didn't, but they had all indications. And then, of course, this past season when Gung came back on anything that you would see out there, Gung was not counted, but then he came back and payroll goes up $1.9 million just because Gung was off the restricted list. So, yes, it's completely fluid between opening day and ending day. And, of course, you also have things like incentives. You have cash considerations that are sent out during the year, termination pays, performance bonuses. And so at the end of the year, oftentimes what people are citing are 40-man numbers. So, like I said, you're kind of doing apples and oranges at the beginning of the year to the ending of the year. So I always personally like to compare beginning of the year, right, because that's what they're planning on spending right this instant. And yes, things change during the year, but it's kind of stuff you're never sure of. Is Ivan Nova going to make 30 starts? Is he going to make 28? Is he going to make that extra $1 million? Is minor leaguer A going to come up and have his salary go to the league minimum? It's an over or under, and things change during the year. But what I like to do is I look at where they're starting, comparing. Okay, opening day 17, opening day 18, and now compare that to what they're shooting for opening day 19 and go from there.
Well, you lead right into my next question because, we'll say we're at about 80 million, right? As you mentioned.
Yes.
There's still definitely some holes. So what do you anticipate? What basically do you think that the Pirates can spend this offseason?
Do we know? I mean, I wrote this in an earlier article. I think it depends where the team kind of thinks they are, because in the past we've seen them, even though people say, oh, they didn't spend in 2015. Well, they raised their payroll $10 million in season, over $10 million. Payroll from 2015, where they started at 87, they started 2016 at 106. So that's almost a $20 million increase. Did they spend that money well? No, they didn't, but they spent it. So it's a matter of, I think, where do they think they are? Do they think that this core they have now, are they going to look to supplement it? Do they think they have the money? That's another thing, too, what everyone wants to talk about, the attendance. Yes, they had a significant attendance drop, and that can't be ignored. Now, me personally, I don't think attendance is where teams are getting their money. The TV is where the money is. And yeah, sure, let's say they lost $5 million in ticket revenue this year. I don't know if that's the number. No one does. And I mean, is that a reason for Frank Coonley to come out and say, we think we can't spend as much as we'd like to because we didn't have as great enough attendance? Is that an issue? I believe it is. So would I be surprised if they open up less than where they started 2018, which was 84.6? I would not be. Would I be surprised if they were higher than that? I don't think I would be. So I hate to give you a non-answer, but I think it really depends on where do they think they're in contention, and Neil Huntington always says they are. So, but then you also look, where are they going to spend that money here in the next 3 months? Is that stuff out there? I mean, do they want to drop $10 million on Brian Dozier? Do they want to spend $7 million on Jose Iglesias? I don't know. That remains to be seen. But like I said, I truly do believe that the attendance is going to be an issue, and I don't know whether it's going to how much of a negative impact it's going to have. I mean, I could go all into when, of course, that's all a part of their budget, and that's another hot button topic in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
I as an accountant who is literally working on a budget, over the last month as we speak, it's always irked me to say when fans say, what's the term? Self-imposed budget. Newsflash, budgets aren't self-imposed. Businesses make budgets, and the Pirates are a business, like it or not. And if you look at the leaked financials, the Pirates their fiscal year was October to October, and payroll per the CBA is calculated December to December. And of course, the season runs March to September, roughly. So that's all roughly the same timeline. So somewhere down, and literally I started working on our budget for January to December in this past September. So roughly 16 to 18 months I'm projecting forward. So someone in an accounting office somewhere in Pittsburgh was doing budget numbers around probably April for 2019, and they're saying, well, this is what our attendance looks like right now. How can I justifiably say that we're going to have 1 million more fans than we did this season? I have to put this number in for ticket revenue, and at the end of the day, if your revenue and expenses aren't coming out where you need them to spend enough money, like I said, I don't have access to the books. I would love to see them, but without that knowledge, we can only guess. And I do think that is going, whether you want to take it as an excuse or not, I think that I want to say it's justified, but I would not be surprised if they come out and say, well, we couldn't spend as much as we did last year because we saw decreased tickets. And
go ahead. No, just say people love that because that narrative will get out there. But like you said, I mean, there is validity to it, and it is what it is. But I kind of have that feeling too. So if they're at that point where they kind of need to maybe move some payroll to add in other places, you mentioned Dozier and Iglesias, which we've talked about in the past couple of weeks as well. We're hearing these Cervelli rumors coming up. Possibly, shopping him and trading him to, add elsewhere. Do you think at this point, with what payroll would be with Cervelli's salary for this upcoming year, does it worth it to make a trade at this time? In your eyes, do you think that's worth it with, him with coming off the injuries and everything as well?
Don't make it a payroll issue. I mean, I think there's great baseball reasons to sell on Francisco Cervelli. I was looking before we started our call here. 2018, aside from his first year in Pittsburgh, was basically a career year for him, and entering his age 33 season for a catcher who is, I don't mean to be blunt here or rude, but a walking concussion, and that's nothing to laugh about. And for if he takes one ball off the face mask wrong, that who knows what could happen. And even if they want to move him from behind the plate and do some first base, and Francisco Cervelli added great value as a catcher last year as an offensive threat to the team. But if you put that same offense at first base, that's not valuable. And you hate to look at players like this as simply assets, but for a player approaching free agency, the highest paid player on the team, and who has significant injury history, especially related to his position, I do not see a problem selling high on Francisco Cervelli. Now, as you said, you're basically clearing $11 million off the payroll. If you're only doing that just to save the $11 million, which cynical fans will say that's what they're doing, I don't necessarily think that's the case. Many trades that fans will call salary dumps truly are not salary dumps. But if they trade that and then don't do something to kind of make up for that, then yes, that might be an issue. But I myself would have no issue reallocating that $11 million to a need that might be greater. As we've heard Neil Huntington say, and I think it's a bad idea Stallings is out of options. We don't want to lose him. We'll open the season with three catchers. And if they also open up the year with 13 pitchers, which as they did last year, you're looking at 4 bench spots and 2 of them are catchers and who can't do anything else. It's not like we're talking about Russell Martin here who plays shortstop on the side. So I think that's bad roster management. And for a Pirates team who needs to spend their money wisely, roster management is important. So allocating that $11 million would be a good idea. And it's yet to be seen. Well, what kind of return could they sell high? What's the card catcher market look like? I don't know. But was I upset when I saw that report? Not necessarily.
Yeah, well, and just to emphasize, Ethan, it's $11.5 million, so we could be exact here.
Well, what did I say? Because if they trade him, but then they have to replace his roster spot with the 5.55 league minimum deal, which is the $11 million difference.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Take that, DiNardo.
I'm sorry.
You can't do. They're not opening the year with $24 million or 24 roster spots. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would be the Yinzers would have a field day with $24 million payroll.
Yeah, imagine that.
That was like the 2008s. Go back and look, and that's just insane. Whenever you look at the number, yeah. I mean, that's where TV money comes in. When you're going from 20 to 30 to 50 to 80 in 5 years.
I know this wasn't one of the questions, but just off topic, do you think the Pirates might be able to land a decent TV deal?
Did you write? I mean, if you're reading my work, I wrote about that several months ago, and I do not think it's as doom and gloom as others do, because you asked me a year or 2 or 3 ago, and I follow this stuff as well on other businesses. TV, I believe, is on a bubble. When is it going to burst? I don't know. ESPN is handing out billions of dollars a year in TV. But as millennials cut cords, as Hulu, as Netflix is infiltrating the market. So if you're spending, and one of you is in housing, right?
Yes.
And so I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. I loved The Big Short. If you're infiltrating the market with all this money, but you're backing it on no one's actually the way TV deals work is AT&T are paying the Pirates basically to show their games. But what incentive does AT&T have if ratings keep going down and down and down? Here's the thing, ratings aren't going down. The only thing in TV that people are still watching is live sports. And what I did a couple months ago, I looked at the 2 most recent television deals that were signed by relatively similar teams situations to the Pirates, the Reds and the Rays. Yep. And the Rays got an insane increase. They went from like $30 million a year to $80 million a year on average. I think that started this year. And of course, these things kind of go up as the years go on. So do I think that the Pirates, and I think this is the last year of their deal, so they're probably talking with AT&T, for the last 6 to 10, 12 months, trying to hammer something out. And do I think that they have a good chance? I do, personally, because like I said, Pittsburgh is still a top 5 to 7 ratings market. And as we were talking about LA earlier, LA has horrible TV. They don't have a horrible TV deal. They have horrible TV ratings. They can't even come to agreements with local TV providers to show the games. Literally no one can watch the games. But again, that's the market. Whenever Pittsburgh is bringing in 5.5s ratings or whatever, and LA is bringing in 3.2s, or I think those are pretty rough estimates, that those are based on number of households watching. So a 1% of a LA market, Pittsburgh dwarfs that, 1% of their market. So the biggest thing I think though is the competition. Is there a competitor out there? Is AT&T competing with anyone? Because in economics, the more competition, the higher the price. But if AT&T is the only one at the table saying, well, this is what we'll offer you, take it or leave it, that's kind of hard to